Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grev, and welcome once again to another Ripper on Res podcast with me, Grev, my co-host Jace. It feels like forever. It has been a while. Probably forever. It's been about 3 weeks, I think. So we missed maybe podding about the last game of the season, ending in a little bit of disappointment. But we're here now. If you're joining us for the first time, please do give this channel a subscribe. Please do give this video a like. We're going to be talking about Arsenal's season in review 2023-2024. We're going to be talking about moments, the defining things that happened, the lowlights, our players who excelled, who didn't, who's on the chopping block maybe for this summer. And we're also going to talk a little bit about maybe who has been our most improved. Before we get into all that, Jace, how the devil are you?
I'm not too bad. Sporting injuries. We say we haven't recorded for a few weeks. Instantly, I've done my knee in, going for an op. Shame to say, football career's over, lads. Apologies.
Nah, fingers crossed. He's going to be back better than ever. He's going to be doing a timber.
Imagine that. No, I'm more likely competing in the Tour de France, I think, than playing football. But no, apart from that, we're all good. Very sunny day today, so yeah, the red shirt is disguising the very red form.
It's not disguising it. It's very obvious.
Yeah, but no, we're good. I can't complain. Love's good. Summer's coming, and Euros are on their way. How are you? How was Champions League final, mate? How was the Champions League final?
Yeah, I went to the Champions League final last night. My first one, which was really, really good. It wasn't like the best match ever. And one thing that I would say is like Real Madrid. I've never seen Real Madrid live. We've been to a lot of European Champions League games, but we've never got to see Real, and it was good to see them. But it felt like they just didn't even come out of second gear. And it was just waiting for them to win. Basically, you knew it was going to happen, and Dortmund pasted their goal in the first half and really should have been ahead, and didn't.
Yeah, I was about to say, I did the classic traditional. If anyone who listens to this podcast know that if there's a game on quite late in the evenings, I don't usually watch the second half because I fall asleep. I fell asleep in the Champions League final. I didn't watch the second half, but I woke up and checked. I woke up and checked the score, thinking, "Have Dortmund won this?" Because I did watch the first half, and they were all over them, over them. They hit the post like twice, right? Like, yeah, I was very disappointed when I saw the scoreline. I mean, I'm happy for Jude. But apart from that, disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it was the one biggest takeaway I think I take away from the whole thing was the Dortmund crowd is incredible. A sea of yellow, just bouncing up and down, chanting. Even when they went down, they were still behind their team. I was actually really embarrassed by Real Madrid's support. It was really poor until they'd scored. They were drowned out entirely by Dortmund, and it really does put some of pretty much all of the English clubs to shame, including our own. Like, I know that we're trying to mimic and copy a lot of the things, particularly with the Ashburton Army and the things that they do with the tifos, with the flares, with the marching, all of that kind of stuff. And I love some of that additional kind of European metal and vigor, and it's energetic, and it was really it's incredible. I'd love to be in it. I would have loved to have been in that sea of yellow and just getting into it. And it's like, it is incredible. So it is a real shame because I really wanted them to win. I think it would have been a really good underdog story, but it wasn't to be. And it was still, it was really, really good to kind of witness and to see and experience. So yeah, did enjoy it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I think you're right. We can definitely learn something, especially from German football fans, right? I think every time we've had German football fans at the Emirates, I mean, I just remember when we used to play Dortmund, right? And I remember just going to sleep that night, and this is like 2 hours after the game because we always have a long journey home, and my head and my eardrum was still ringing, not because I've been drinking, not because it was literally because Dortmund fans just the whole game. It's a great atmosphere when they come, and I can only applaud what they do. I'm going to the Euros, not to watch England because I didn't get a ticket, but I got a ticket to France versus Austria. That'd be good. But I think just getting a chance to maybe go to some of the fan zones and things would be good. So very looking forward to the Euros in Germany.
Have you got the French kit with the massive cock on it?
No, I haven't bought the new French kit with the massive cock on it. I did buy this with Saliba on the back, just so I can wear it to the game, so that I hopefully Saliba starts and I will go watch France versus Austria. I do have an old a couple of old French shirts. I think I've got an old Zidane one, doesn't fit anymore, and a Koscielny one, all black with Koscielny. So I've got to decide what I'm going to wear. But yeah.
I wasn't asking for, although I said massive cock, I didn't say it for comedic effect. It's my favorite kit.
Well, it is a cock, right?
And it's a huge one. I don't know. Either way, it's big.
Spurs is the cock, so
yeah,
it's
true.
Not the ball, at least.
I just love it. It's a nice kit. It's a great kit, and I saw it in France when I was on holiday last week, and I was like, "Can I buy it?" And Sarah's like, "You're not. That's too big a cock, even for you."
Yeah. It's a massive cock. I've seen it too. It's huge.
So, there you go. Right, I'm gonna start us off with a Rip Roaring review because I want to get it off my chest. I need to.
Yeah, go on.
It's been eating away at me, so I'm gonna go first, and that is my text messages have been blowing up every single day since Manchester United beat Man City to win the FA Cup, and it brought into light the fact when Arteta took over and won the FA Cup back in 2020, it's a callback to that. For us, it was at the time we used it as a beating stick to say that we had a better season than other clubs. We were 8th, and we won the FA Cup, and it felt like that papered over the cracks. And the messages I've been getting are more along the lines of cracks. Well, this is the thing, because a lot of the conversation that I've been having with many United fans as of late is that it's not a papering over a crack. It's like we have had a better season. And I'm in my...
What? Are you kidding me? Is this coming from where I think it's coming?
No, there's multiple people. I even had this conversation at the Champions League final last night. And it's a genuine feeling amongst United fans that they feel that this is it's like a trajectory. It's like a progression. It's like a change and other things. And in the context, would you swap Man United season for our season or vice versa? And the answer is no. In the context of what we've done this season and everything that we've grown and everything in the culture and the rebuild and the squad and the belonging and the community that Arsenal have given this season is nothing I would swap for any other club barring Man City for winning what they've won.
It depends why you go to watch football, right? As well. I think there's a number of different aspects to how you can look at this. Now, with our friendship group, we've not had this discussion, or at least I've not had this discussion with the guys since United won the FA Cup final. But even some of our friends that do support United were, I'd say, before the cup final, were saying not interested in what was happening in the league because of the way United's been playing. And I think that does reflect that their season was awful. Let's be honest, let's not beat about the bush. Winning the cup, for certain teams, winning the cup it does define a great season. Absolutely does. But teams like Man City, I'm going to put United in this bracket because they still technically are a massive side, even if they haven't been playing one in the league. They expect more, and so I feel like the cup is a consolidation kind of prize to the end of the season. But when you actually look at the grand scheme of the things that are more important across the board, I would say no. In the same way that season, it papered over the cracks for us, and actually, it did some bad things for us in reflection. How much money, because of that cup final, did we throw away?
Did we give a Aubameyang? Is that what you're saying, Jace?
Yeah. Just genuinely, though. We signed him to a £350,000 a week deal over 3 years. Was that right? And he was he was 30, 29, 30.
Yeah.
And we had to pay him off to leave. And the reflection is, when he left, we got better. We didn't get worse. Imagine if we'd have started that a year earlier, and how better we could have used that money, and how much further along the process would we have been. We actually learned a big mistake from that cup final win. And I find it interesting. I don't think United are looking at it like that. Or at least I've not heard any United fans talk about it like that. And I would actually love to hear from United fans around whether they think that if there's anything that they can learn on how they can improve from that cup final. Because Man United played well in that cup final, but it's a one-off game. And when you're G'd up and there's something on the line, when something really matters, you can turn up for one performance. Any team in the league can do that. So I'm just interested to hear the view. I think it's great that they won it. And if they were Leicester City winning the FA Cup like a couple of years ago, was it last season? I can't remember when it was. Then that's a great season for them. It's a great season. But for a team like United, it's not. Especially when you consider when they finished in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I do way to steal my review, Jace, by the way. But it's just like, I genuinely believe they've had a completely farcical season in the grand scheme of things. The only silver lining for people like us is that Ten Hag's in that job and he will stay in that job probably because of that win. And that's good, I think. I don't feel he's a good coach. I don't think he's right for Man United. I don't think he's good with that dressing room. And I look down, there's a lot of talk in life that the destination is not the end game, it's the journey that you take. And the journey we've had over the past 2 seasons is something I wouldn't swap for any other club, even Man City. I don't think in this situation. Yes, they won the trophies last year and they've won it again 4-peat this year. But it feels empty. It feels soulless. I was actually talking on the train to someone about this and feeling like Arsenal have I know it's biased because it's coming from a podcast that's about Arsenal, but we exude class. We have a lot of history, a lot of legacy. The Man United have too, but I kind of feel like the way we go about our business, it has an ethic, about a moral. We're not buying our way through trophies. We're not kind of laying down markers in that way. And the way that we go about and have rebuilt is commendable, and it's so commendable that other people are looking at us and copying us. You look at Chelsea, who are now swapping for a very similar age profile manager with limited experience to try and duplicate what we've done. And whether they will or they won't is, I suppose, neither here nor there. But they got rid of a manager who turned around their season quite well this year. They were on the up. Pochettino did well with them, and now he's gone. It's that's the level that we have created, that other people are looking at us as the thing to replicate. And there's no better, other than the trophies, thing that you can say for us is like having a look at those other clubs. They want to be us. We're no longer the laughing stock of this league. We are elite. We've done it now twice in a row, albeit fallen short. But that's only one team wins it. There's 19 other teams in the league, right? Only one of them's going to win it. And it can't just be us. I know that it was City and it has been City, but I kind of feel like next year, particularly when Pep leaves, it's Arteta. There's nobody else there that fills that void for me. Now that Klopp has gone, Arteta is the one. And, there's talk that he's on the verge of signing a 4 to 5 year deal, £10 million a year. That'd be incredible for us. I really do feel. Don't do a Rio, Jace. Don't do a Rio. Get him to write his number down.
Give him more.
Yeah, anyway, I know. But
seriously, give him more.
I would too, but I just, I wouldn't swap it. We've done for a while, and I just kind of feel it's absolutely laughable that anybody could look at our season and think that it was bad. And I'm going to talk a little bit my overall thoughts about the season in a second after you've given me your review. But I just, I found it hilarious, and I just can't. I needed to exude something and get it off my chest. Over to you, Jason.
It was a good topic. As you can see, it evoked me to just getting involved. Yeah. Mine is the auction is on, the clear out is on. Roll up. We've got bargains left, right, and centre. Let's talk about it. Who needs to go? We know we're going to talk a bit about who needs to go, but I just genuinely think that there's so much stuff about the sales and players that we're going to bring in. We might talk a little bit about that as well, but the clear out needs to start sooner rather than later. So Smith Rowe, God, that's going to hurt when he comes back and scores against us and he starts playing amazing in a mid-table Premier League team. I actually really hope he goes to Germany. I think he'd be amazing at Dortmund. But I don't think Arsenal will sell. I think that's also a Premier League club to get the money. So Emil needs to go. Reece needs to go. I think there was a picture, right, of like Mohamed El Neni, Cedric. Like, I think you may have seen it. There's a number of them all stood together, and I was just the comments, which is like, none of these players will be at the club next year. we need to start selling, and I'm waiting for the first transfers out the door. I'm surprised that we haven't heard anything yet. I'm hoping the club are going to be fast to act on the selling.
I think the Euros is playing a part, because you have to wait for some dominoes to fall, right? Usually it's like, you wait for one team to go and then all the rest of the teams, because all of that falls into place once that's kind of happened.
Where do you think some of these players will end up, though? That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. So I'll give you one right now that I think, and then I'll let you go through the rest. Emma Smith-Rowe to Crystal Palace.
I think it's that kind of like West Ham, Palace, Fulham. A London club would be a good move, and a mid-table club. Like all of those would be doable.
Palace with the manager, I think, would be a really good fit for him. Being able to play in the Odegaard role, because they have Olise and Eze.
I mean, if you look at, you're right across the board. We've got players to sell. Likely want to keep a lot of them in England because you'll get better value for them, and people know they're a known quantity in that league. We, let's talk about Ramsdale. There's, Nelson. You could be Vieira, even. Like there's some other ones there. I'm probably going to talk about this in a future video. Like we're not a good selling club, Jace, right? And this is the thing. Even now, we're looking at her. I've heard rumors of 15 million for Aaron Ramsdale, who was at a time last year the best goalkeeper in the league.
Hang on, didn't Trafford go to Burnley for like 20 million?
It doesn't matter, Jace. One sale and another sale are not the same, right? But this is where I don't know what it is. It's like you just said, roll up. There's a fire sale at Arsenal. I think that's the part of the problem. People know we've got shitwares to get rid of. Do you want them? And it's kind of like, well, no, because you know that we need to get rid of them. So it's kind of like, why are you going to give us any more money for them? Because we're going to have to sell. It's a buyer's market.
I just don't understand how Liverpool used to be able to sell their players for like 20 to 30 million, and we can't. Like Kieran Tierney is another high quality £20 million left back. Ramsdale is a 25, 30. I think his value's increased since he's been at Arsenal, in my personal opinion. So was it 27.5 we brought him in? We should be going at least 30. And the fact that like a Newcastle turned their nose up at it that just tells me that, well, one, they'd already bought in Nick Pope, so and spent X amount of money on him. And I'm like, he's an England international, Formula number 1, and I just don't get it. I was like, clearly your FFP is. If FFP is a problem, then open up Bruno and you can have Ramsdale. Simple as that.
Just can't see it happening. Yeah, a lot of sales to do. So I agree. We can talk about that a bit deeper as we go through the summer, because there's going to be a lot more activity. They probably want to talk about the transfer market. That's not fired up or heating up as quite as anyone hoped yet, but it will come. I wanted to start the season review with just like an overall thoughts section. So Jace, if you can put into words, how have you felt this season, just as an overall? Like, what did we start with at the start of the season? What was our ambition? Where did we get to? And how do you think we generally fared as Arsenal Football Club this year?
It was an exhausting season. Is the first word that comes to mind when you ask me like overall thoughts. First word in my head: exhausted. Just a high amount of games, high intensity, especially towards the end, and it had its ups and downs. It's got its high. We're going to talk about our highlights and we're going to talk about our lowlights. The only thing I want to start with on a positive upward trajectory consistently, and I think we have plenty of surprises this year. Again, we're going to talk about the detail a little bit more. I don't want to spoil some of our reviews of players. We had a really good upward trajectory. I think it's slightly spoiled by City winning the league again. Like they're just a juggernaut that you can't bring down, and they are the standard to beat. I think Mikel was asked about this. How does he feel about it? And he's like we should have got 93, 95 points. Like he was already considering the things that we messed up on and where we should have been, and saying that that's the standard that we need to get to. So he's already thinking about levels that we need to go next year. And I agree with him. Like, we can be annoyed with City. It does feel quite hollow. The way they won the league, as they always do, it doesn't feel of any value. We know the charges that are against them at the moment, which are, we can't do anything about that. We don't know if it's proven or unproven, and we'll find out in due course. And maybe our views will change at that point. There's no point going any further into it. We just can focus on ourselves, and it was a good upward trajectory. It wasn't quite enough, but we go again next season. Maybe that sounds quite depressive. It's an exhausting season. There's a great upward trajectory, and I'm really proud of the boys. That's the biggest thing I felt on the final day. I felt really proud of that team. Like, just the way in which they reacted at the final whistle told me how much they put in, how much they cared. And I think every season we have gone a level, and we have used that disappointment from the previous year to drive the next year. And I took so much pride in the way the whole ground, the atmosphere, everybody is reacting to this. There's no one downbeat moaning that we didn't win the league. I haven't said anyone downbeat moaning that we didn't win the league. Yeah, sure, we can critique, and we will, some of the games that we should have won, that would have changed the points. But I think everyone is really proud of this team. And that's my main thought for this year. Pride. Yeah. We're together. We're still together.
I'm aligned with you. Like, pride is probably my overwhelming thought as well. Like, I would have said that I was proud of where we got to, proud of this team, proud of the crowd. Even there was points at the earlier on in this season when this crowd was pretty turgid. To be honest, there was a time when it was turning a little bit, and we were kind of questioning, particularly with the ballot and other things that were happening around the kind of, in the stadium going fans, that has transformed. It is as good as it got last season still.
Yeah, it was good as it got towards the end of the season, because there was something to play for, and energy was up, and atmosphere was up as a result. It wasn't so much at the beginning, and I think the ballot has something to do with that. Look, we need to talk about that on another pod. Let's not talk about it today. We need to talk about what did the ballot do for the atmosphere? How was the ballot run? What was the impact on fans? Because I think we all have opinions on it, and I think it's a good off-season topic to discuss. So we definitely need to get into that. But yeah. I mean, fans picked up definitely towards the end of the season. We had the videos of everybody in the tunnel, the flares and the singing, under the bridge before you get into the campus. So the atmosphere is there. We need more of that. We need the club to sort out some things around seating placement to get the, not ultras, but, the German club fans atmosphere, the yellow wolf in Dortmund. We want a red wall.
Yeah, we want that kind of behavior. Yeah, exactly. We need that kind of thing to drum it up and continue, but and be that 12th man. For me, and I look back at, like, when we didn't win the league last season, we fell over much earlier than we did this year. We had a few things that we needed to sort out. We needed to add, mentality monsters, proper elite players into the mix to really get us and help us get to where we needed to be. We needed to add additions that aren't going to break down. We had a lot of breakdown last season with the losses of, like, Saliba particularly, and Partey as well. We lost Granit Xhaka, and I don't think people realise how big of a loss. We've seen what Bayer Leverkusen have done this season, and I don't want to be the guys that I told you so. There's a lot of people that will be like this too, but I always went to bat for Granit Xhaka. I loved Granit Xhaka, and we were much better with him. Every single manager or coach that had ever coached at Arsenal and had him, he was always on the starting team sheet. We'd always be one of the first players named, and our win percentage was always better with him. And replacing him and losing a player like him was no mean feat. And we, at the start of the season, we'll probably talk about it, there were moments where his absence was very glaring. So we needed to, make sure we replace, but not just replacing him directly, but replace well enough that his absence through the team, we could navigate those changes better. We were going to be in the Champions League this year, so we needed to make sure that we didn't embarrass ourselves basically in the Champions League and fall out of that. We needed to get out of the group stages and do better. And we needed to compete beyond where we got to last year. So we fell apart in April, and we needed to do better than that. Overall, I would say that all of those points we did. We had an improvement in every measure. We got more points this year. We got more goals. We had the most clean sheets. Our goal difference was way up. It's joint to Man City's, despite not having like a striker. All that conversation that we were having back in January of Arsenal need a striker because we had this torrid run of luck where we just couldn't hit the goal, saves, and lots of other things. We talked a lot about this, that we just couldn't score for love nor money. But expected goal difference, expected assists, expected goals, all of that trajectory, all of that progression was up. And it, for me, the biggest thing that kind of stands out is we're not contenders anymore. We're genuinely an elite footballing team. We have an amazing coach, an amazing group of players. We have a really great system and multiple different systems as well. So my overall thoughts, I'm proud of this team, proud of what it's done. And what I'm most looking forward to is just the continuation of this trajectory. The moments in the stands that I look forward to next year with you next to me as we watch these games and kind of enjoy them together. I just can't wait for it. And my overall thoughts, despite not winning the league, is just happiness and joy of what we experienced this season, and more of it to come.
Nice, yeah. I echo those thoughts. I'm looking forward to many games in the stands next year, being able to celebrate many goals and many clean sheets. More important,
and hopefully a trophy.
And hopefully, yeah. Well, yeah, maybe that's the most important thing, a trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to move on then. So we talked about moments. We're going to talk about our lowlights after this part, but I want to talk about defining moments because there were a lot in this season. And I wrote down a whole list of ones that I had at the forefront of my mind. But I want to just, if you could pick out one moment for you that either was a highlight, a defining moment, something that made you happy, something that stood out to you, what would you pick out from this year, Jace, as something that has been your defining moment?
It was the moment the West Ham fans started walking out. But there's reasons, right? We created that. That wasn't West Ham. West Ham maybe not been playing their best at that time, but we created that moment as Arsenal Football Club, playing at the elite level we were at that point in time. West Ham had been a bit of a bogey ground, right? The Olympic Stadium for us in the last few seasons. Even this season, right? We went there and lost in the League Cup. West Ham beat us over the Christmas period at home. Still really angry about how we lost that game. I was in the ground that day, and it was we were again like we always are, all over them, and they just somehow managed to get. I think there was a really contentious VAR decision, didn't go our way, and then we got one on the counter, and we lost that, and it was points dropped. So they had our number, and we went there and destroyed them. Like, we destroyed them in a way that we broke them, like mentally broke them. I think it was like 4-0 within like 20 minutes or something like that. If I remember, 25 minutes. The crowd were walking out after half an hour. The stadium was half empty at half time. They're just gone. And it was that, and that's why it was the defining moment for me, because it made me, it was on the back of a period where we were smashing teams 5-0, 6-0. And we were really we were coming into our form where we'd been slow starters in the season, and we were over Christmas period complaining about the lack of a striker and the lack of goals. And we'd found these goals, and we just turned into this monster that replicated for me Man City last season being a monster. We were a monster, and that was what was defining for me. It was seeing us, Dec's going to be sympathetic to West Ham. No. He scored an absolute banger that game. Just amazing moment. And it was that point when I genuinely believed we would go all the way. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that we would go all the way to the end of the season. I didn't know if we'd win it, I think, but I knew we would go all the way. There was no slipping in the side this year. That was my defining moment.
I like that. I mean, I was looking, there was a chant. It was, stadiums are empty everywhere we go. I remember we went through a series of games where we were chanting that because, they were leaving at 60 minutes because we were embarrassing teams for fun. You're right. It was incredible.
It was every game, whether it was Burnley or West Ham, wherever, it was who put the ball in the Burnley net, who put the ball in the West Ham net, after fucking team did. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Maybe mine's not as I don't know. Mine's probably not as good as I don't know. For me, it's again another. You've already mentioned it was Declan Rice, because that goal against United. So I went to that game. I took my two boys. I got to enjoy it in the sensory room at the Emirates. So I took my eldest and my youngest, and
So you heard
I
nothing.
think that. Well, I didn't hear a lot. So for those who don't know, the sensory room is pretty much a soundproof room. So you get this kind of tinny sound where you don't really get to experience the crowd as much as you do. But it was just, we were on our knees in that game a little bit, to be honest. Because if that Garnacho goal had have gone in, how different may our season have been? That could have really been. And the fact that Ten Hag still talks about that moment of that offside to this day is incredible. And I think that goal, his first goal for the club, the knee slide, the weather, it was an absolutely unreal day. It was such a beautiful day. And it just stuck in my mind as just like a euphoric moment that I think just really cemented for me. Declan Rice is a West Ham man, and that he solidified himself in the echelons of West Ham history because of the trophy that he got them. He feels like an Arsenal man. He's only been there one season, but he feels very much Arsenal. And the fact that how he celebrated, what it means to him, how he's enacted himself, I think just that moment personified him this season in an Arsenal shirt. And it just really is a moment that stood out to me.
I think what you're seeing and what you saw this season, you say he's a West Ham man. West Ham will be familiar with this as well. Because I think some fans booed him, some West Ham fans, gave him a lot of stick. And I don't see how you can do that. He is a club legend for them. He won them a European Cup. He was captain, right? So right after Mark Noble. So I think, I respect Cesc Fabregas. I don't give Cesc Fabregas stick. I'd never give him stick. He is God's chess piece, as Alan Davis used to say. I just don't see how rival fans can do it to an ex-player who's just done so much for the club.
And he's such a consummate professional as well, isn't he? He's just like, he doesn't, like Emi Martinez is a player that left us and he's an arsehole. The way he continues to, talk about Arsenal and stuff in the media, even after leaving, Declan would never do that to West Ham. And I just feel, he's a very adult, professional, consummate player.
So I have an analogy here then. So I'm going to say, if I say Frank Lampard, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if
he's a great player for West Ham, but he went to another level with Chelsea. And became a Chelsea legend.
I really do hope. I really do hope that it does become, because he's got like his best years ahead. He's not even at his the peak yet. He's just entering it. Yeah, that'd be incredible. Right, let's put a downer on all of that then, Jace. Let's bring a low light. There's probably going to be plenty to pick from, I'm sure. Do you want me to go first, or do you want me to? Are you ready? Have you got something on the floor?
Floor is yours. I've got something, but floor is yours. You go first.
All right. I'm gonna do so. Our season hinged on our last year. We faltered in April. And we lit the league alight at the start of that year. We were the forerunners. We sprinted ahead. We were multiple points, and that's why a lot of the talk about bottling came into it, because we were at points very far ahead. This year, it was the December running that really killed our season. It was a really horrible low point in our season where we dropped those points to Fulham, where we dropped those points to Villa. It was really quite rubbish. And the fact that we peppered the West Ham goal as much as we did and still managed to lose really did feel like a peak moment for our club. Fulham away was shocking as well. It was just a torrid performance. It just wasn't very, very good. It was probably our worst performance of the season. And, although we recovered from that, we bounced back. We went to that trip to Dubai. We came back as an absolute monster, as you mentioned, and we were just, ruining teams just for fun. But and I suppose that memory is not as kind of as stoned in your mind as much as it would be had we done it in April, as we did last year. And I think that's why maybe many have forgotten, not forgotten, but it's kind of like you kind of we're more proud and we're more happy of the season that we had. Had we have done that in May, we would have been having a different conversation right now. We would have been. We've lost our mentality. We don't know what we're doing, getting a bit roddery about it and saying that we don't have the right mentality. We're not winners, all that kind of stuff. We did it in December, so it's kind of not at the forefront of our minds anymore and somewhat forgotten about. But it really was a lot of questions were getting raised at that point in time about our credentials, about our title contendership and whether we could go the distance and do it. And me and you were questioning it as well. It was just a bit abject, quite naive. And I wrote something down that kind of said, like, for us, like our record against the top six this year was really, really incredible. The traditional top six. We haven't lost. You know, we got 4 off Liverpool, we got 4 off Man City. We would always go to Anfield and we knew we were going to get spanked. We go to Old Trafford, we knew we were going to lose. We would go to the Etihad, we knew we were going to lose. This year, all of those were just nothing to us. We rolled up to town, did our thing. We were the Arsenal, and we did you. And then we go and play like Fulham away, and we go and play Villa at home. And it's just like that. Those are very polar opposites, and very. I don't know whether our approach to those games was different. We underestimated teams, maybe. But genuinely, that December running killed our season, and really is a low light on reflection for me.
It was a low light. It was not my low light, I think. Well, one I'm going to call out. There was one for me that broke me more than that run-in did, because there were still games to go and there was still stuff to play for at that stage. So it was definitely you can reflect on it and go, and that's where we lost the league. But I think there are other places we lost the league too. So my low light was Aston Villa at home in the run-in, because we were at that game. In the first half, there were people who said that we weren't good that game. I disagree. And we came out in the first half the way we always do. If Trossard had put that chance away, if Havertz had put his chance away, it's a completely different game. And we go on to win it, I think, in the normal way we did. But because we didn't take our chances, we got caught on the counter. Aston Villa got a goal and they got caught on the counter. And Watkins got a second. And like it was that moment, the low light for me personally, because I've talked about Ollie before. I like Ollie Watkins a lot. Strong affiliation with him. And it was that moment when he scored that second and basically slid or came right in front of us, because we were just above the Villa fans. And it just felt like someone stuck a knife in me. That's literally the only way I could describe it. I felt so down. And I felt really good afterwards. There's some amazing performance afterwards. You know, one of the highlights I didn't talk about was the Chelsea game. That was a laugh. But the problem was that it was in our control, but then after the Villa game, it wasn't. And we did everything we needed to do once it wasn't in our control. But we could have done everything we needed to do and it be in our control, and we'd have won the league. So that was my low light. You know, and the fact that Emery has our number. Jesus Christ, someone get rid of him. Like, we're talking about managers we want to stay. We're talking about managers we want to leave. He's a curse. Like, I just feel like so I reckon he's got like a badge of Arsenal in his room, and he's got like a pin. He just sticks it in there. Like,
well, Villarreal on his shoulder from it, right? That's probably what it is.
Villarreal, Aston Villa, both times. Like, he took a lot of, I'm going to say it, a lot of shit from Arsenal fans and from the English press, because at least what came across his language skills, the way he spoke. And I think that's criticism that was unfair. And I think he is a very good manager. He don't win that many Europa Leagues or UEFA Cups without being a good manager. He can get teams playing really, really well. He just came to England at a time where he probably wasn't ready for it. And like, he needed to develop certain aspects. And I don't know, I can't, from afar, it's very hard to critique. As a fan, you just critique the fact that you didn't win enough games and you drew too many games and you missed out.
I think the Europa League final was the one that stood out to me.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing he's supposed to win. That's the thing he's supposed to win. That's his ball game. He won it since.
We were awful. Yeah, we were awful in that final. Though.
Yeah. So
you're gonna be like scar tissue. It's horrible.
He didn't have a great time with us, but that doesn't take away that he is not a good manager. And I feel like he took some things personally, and as a result, he's been a thorn in our side ever since. Which is interesting, because now I think about it, I wonder if Ten Hag's actually a good manager. It's just United.
Well, he did a good job at Ajax, but it's obviously a different league.
Yeah, but you hear what Jose's saying at the moment. Like, Jose's going on his big tour of criticising. There you go. It's recording again. Apologies. We had a slight interval there. Unplanned, unscheduled. Amateur podcast.
Don't have kids. Don't have kids. Basically, is the answer that Jason needs to give.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that. Ten Hag, I just wonder. Jose's on his, as I was saying, on a bit of a press tour at the moment. You're seeing him a lot talk about the atmosphere and the vibe of Man United and the culture and a number of things, which is why he mentioned it last night. Actually, he was doing TNT for Champions League, and he got asked about Jadon Sancho, and again, you just talked about the atmosphere at United and the fact that it's not just him as a coach. And it might not be just Ten Hag as a coach hasn't been able to get the best out of him. Sometimes there's a number of factors, and including the community, the vibe, the setup, the team, the club, the way the club support the team, support the manager, support the players.
It's such a good point. It really is.
It's really, I just found it really interesting. I just found it really like such a really interesting element because there's so many aspects to a situation, and I just wonder. Yeah, just that point on Emery made me think about Ten Hag a little bit. And with a change, if they could change the culture of the club, could he succeed at United? Question mark.
But, like in business, it's like changing culture is one of the biggest things and most difficult things to do. And you mentioned about Sancho because the reason why it's such a good point. I spoke to 2 United fans last night at the Champions League final. Both of them wanted Real to win, and the only reason they wanted Real to win because they didn't want Sancho to win. Because they don't want Sancho to come back into. Honestly, this is where I'm like, it's so feeble and so like meek. It's weird. It's like they don't want him to come back into the dressing room with like a thing. And I don't know whether or not this is his personality. And there has been a lot of talk about Sancho and his attitude to training in the club and etc. etc. But they were worried there's an element of him coming back in and going, look what I've done. What are you guys going to do? Like he's still a United player. That's what the thing that baffled me. Like surely you just want him to be successful.
I don't know. I don't get it either. I mean, it's interesting you talk about business as well because like I can kind of understand that sometimes the culture in an organization can sap the energy out of you, and sometimes you just need to go somewhere else. And I think he's gone somewhere else, and he's got his energy back, and you can see how well he's.
It's hard to recover from it. It's so easy. It's like a review of like a hotel or a restaurant. You go and tell 10 people if you had a really shit torrid time. You probably go and tell one person if you've had a great time and you're loving it. And you're right, he's probably just been absolutely killed. But this is why I say, even if we were talking about our overall thoughts on the season, one of the biggest things that Arteta has transformed at this club is the culture, is the being, is the community of these players. There is a sense of belonging, both between the players and the crowds, that we haven't had for decades.
There's no one, with the exception of Pierre Aubameyang, it just keeps coming up. It came up a little bit in the press this week. I saw him talking about him and Arteta again, but there's no one, even ex-players, there's no one that's criticizing Arteta and what he does. Like you listen to Rob Holding since he left the club, you listen to what Lacazette said since he left the club, and he is elite. And I think the culture of the club is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Again, another amazing thing this season, another highlight, another thing I'm really proud that we have. People say that may not be trophies, but it's about the people you spend the time with as well.
So I'll take us from the low. Let's move up. So I want to talk about most improved player. I think you've got one on your radar that you want to kind of give this, flowers and the plaudits to, Jace.
Yeah, so most improved player award from me. They get a little plaque. I'll send it in the post if they're listening. They're probably not. Trossard, brilliant season from Trossard. At the end of the season, he turned up when it was needed. Goals. We had a big hole, and this probably will lean a little bit also into who I feel was our, most underperformed player of the season. But he filled a void. He scored important goals in important times. I was a little bit critical at some points in the season because I was saying, look, he's not actually. He gets goals all the time when he comes to the bench, but he doesn't get goals when he starts. And then he instantly shut me up, putting goal after goal after goal in, cementing his place in that starting lineup. Always turns up against the big teams. The big teams, there was no. He was just there in the big games at the right times as well. And I just, that goal against Liverpool, the nutmeg, then the right. I never thought he had pace. And then he nutmegged that. I think he nutmegged. Was it a Trent? He nutmegged. I can't remember. It was on the right, on Liverpool's right side, on our left flank. And then he ran, and the way he put it in, just like he just went for power towards the bottom corner, and it was a beautiful goal. I love that goal. Most improved award, Leandro Trossard.
Nice. I struggled with this one a little bit because we were talking about a pre-pod to peek behind the curtain, and this player for me could go into my best player of the season, which we're going to talk about later. Most improved for me is going to be Kai Havertz. At the start of this season, there's no player I don't think that looked as absent, as abject as the missing. We'd signed him for 65 million as a missing piece of our puzzle, and he just looked like a giraffe, like stumbling around. He couldn't hit a barn door, right?
I feel like we signed someone who had to find themselves.
But I don't think we maybe knew that at the time.
Oh, I think it became clear. I think it became clear a few games in, and it's like Chelsea fans laughing at us, going, "Look, what a waste of money! Thank you, Arsenal. We'll take that. You did this to him. We didn't do anything. We're not stupid. There's a player there. You did this to him. Your club trashed this player. Your club misused this player. Your club abused this player. This guy who won you a Champions League. You absolutely ruined him. Now look how good he is. You can't have him anymore.
To build him back up, right?
He's a bargain.
Bargain. Yeah, I mean, in today's money, he probably is. And for me, that moment where he was given the ball to take the penalty and build his confidence back up and become the player that we've, look at that running that we had. How many games we must have won 17 or something. We lost one in that kind of December to kind of May period. And in the majority of which Kai played as the false nine. And in the odd occasion where he did drop to midfield, you can see the difference. He was just at moments where we needed big players in big moments to step up and take control and take the game by the scruff of the neck to score big, important goals, like when we beat Luton. He was there. And, I for all of the irony of his song, which me and my kids still sing in the kitchen pretty much every day because it's one of those earwigs that just gets stuck in your brain and you can't help but sing it. I just feel like, in September, October time, there is no way in hell either of us could be sat here right now going, oh yeah, Kai Havertz was one of our players of the season. What an incredible season he had. We would never even think that would even be possible back then. And he has improved and brought so much to this team over the period of time. Not just goals and the way that he brings players into the team, the way his energy, the way he runs, all of those kind of the channels that he goes, it was just every element of his game has been picked up massively under Arteta.
There's so much intelligence in that player. So much intelligence, which I love. And he's now playing in a team that has the intelligence to read how he plays, which I absolutely love. And as I said, Chelsea did this to him. They misused him. They didn't understand him. He had too many managers, didn't know how to use him. Players on the pitch didn't understand him. He comes to us. Yeah, he took let's be honest, he took half a season to figure out that. He needed to get his mojo back. We needed to learn how to play with him. During that time, it was very torrid. We were, let's be honest, you wrote your apology letter. We were critical of him. He proved us all wrong. Most importantly, he turned it on. And he proved Chelsea wrong, which is hilarious. Because I'll come on to it. I was going to come on to the goals and assists, but can we just talk about that Chelsea game? Can we just talk about that 5-0 win at home? And he scores two goals.
It was pretty incredible because it's those kind of moments where you're like, man, this is a game that you just want him to turn up in and show. It's like when you see an ex-girlfriend. And you're like, I want to show you what I've got now, and I want to show how good my life is now. And that's what he did on the biggest stage, all on telly in front of their fans. It was incredible.
Oh, it's brilliant. I just love watching. I just love the social. I don't try and avoid social media quite a bit, but it was quite fun to see some of the clips.
Chelsea's one of those clubs that I like to. Man United, Chelsea fans, they're fans that I just want to see have a bad time, And it was a bit annoying when Chelsea started doing quite well towards the end of the season, but they went through a period where it was awful.
There's a lot of teams that we've had rivalries with over the years, and Spurs obviously are supposed to be our main rivals. But I'll be honest, my number one rival club that I just can't stand is Chelsea. So I loved it. I loved every second of it. 20 goals and assists. 20 goals and assists as well. I just wanted to add to that. Brilliant numbers.
I mean, I think he had like 7 or 8 at Chelsea in the 2 seasons he was there. After having, probably like double that at Leverkusen beforehand. We're getting him back to his best and probably better, I'd imagine.
I think this is his best season overall.
That's his first season as well, which is quite something.
It's only going to get better. It's only going to grow.
So. Yeah. I mean, you've mentioned this already. I'm going to let you take flop of the season for you because you've kind of, if you were flipping a coin, your player that you're picking is on the other side of this coin where Leo Trossard was on the heads, right? So who's the tails?
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't want to be critical. I'm going to be not too critical here. However, Gabby Martinelli was the most underperforming player this season. I went through the starting lineup and a couple of the main players that come off the bench. There's no point considering the additional squad players like Nketiah or Smith Rowe or Vieira or players like that. They're not really given the opportunity to perform. So you could say they're flop of the season because they haven't even come on. But let's be honest, they've not played. So when we look at actually who has played games, for minutes on the field, Gabby Martinelli was the worst of the players out there this season. And that's not saying he's a worse player. He's underperformed this season. He needs to add those numbers next season. So let's just go through his numbers actually this season, just for context. What am I talking about here? 8 goals, 5 assists, and 44 appearances, specifically in the Premier League for a left winger who sometimes can play down the middle. And I'm comparing this to Liverpool, right? Not Man City here, Liverpool, when they had their Sane, Firmino, Salah, Mane, sorry. But when they had that combination and they were really pushing City, which is where we're at now, the goals and numbers of assists from those 3 was prolific. And for me, he is one of the challenges why we were lacking goals this year until Havertz turned it on. Who filled a big void and Trossard who stepped up and filled a big void. Gabby was really underperforming. In the actual league, we're talking about 6 goals and 4 assists and 35 appearances. For a player, I don't think we need to talk about exact salary numbers. So I did have a look to see how much it is. But he had a pay rise this year, a new contract. The number was substantial. He is no longer a squad rotation player. He is a first team winger with the potential supposedly to be world class. His numbers went there. And he lost a bit of edge at times this year. He lost a bit of his directness. He lost a bit of his game. And you could see, I don't know if the confidence was down. I think he got it back towards the end of the season a bit, which was great to see. So hopefully he can have a good Copa America and he can kick on next year. And that's what I want to see. But for me, he just underperformed this year. And that's could be the difference between a couple of goals and a couple of points.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Because I think out of the main squad players, the ones that get a lot of appearances and a lot of minutes, he certainly is the one that likely stands out as being the most underperforming. I know you said judge because I wanted to go there because the 3 that you picked out that you kind of can't judge, I suppose, is Nelson, ESR, and Fabio Vieira, all in our midfield. And I know that we kind of don't want to harp on, but ESR had 13 appearances, Fabio had 11 appearances. I think Fabio. I'm trying to think who else. They still had a lot of appearances. I was looking at Nketiah as well, but Nketiah had 27 appearances this year, and he did get 5 goals and 2 assists. So he still had some output for when he played. For me, go on.
Well, we usually talk about this stuff before. I want to ask, maybe this is your person. Have you thought about Jesus?
I have, but Jesus has not been at the same level that he was last year, but he's still got 4 goals, 5 assists. He's still although not the returns, and he didn't start very often. As soon as Havertz was firing on all cylinders, Jesus wasn't really getting a look in, and was quite underperforming at the start. But I kind of look at, I think Smith Rowe for me was the one that I'm calling out, only because he was one of the catalysts that transformed this club. When we were dropping the likes of Lacazette and Aubameyang, etc., and I think it's the game against Chelsea where he came on and really cemented himself as an option, as a starter alongside Saka, and the song started, and there were moments during this season where I'm trying to remember. I think back, there was a game where he actually started, and it was kind of like, this is your opportunity to put your stamp on the game and be the player that we know you can be, that we want you to be. He's an hail ender. He means a lot to Arsenal, and he just simply didn't. And there were multiple sub appearances again where it's like, okay, you've got a chance here. Put yourself in the manager's brain. Get them in their thought process where they're going to start you. And he just simply didn't do enough. And that's where I know that we're talking about a sale maybe in the summer, but even for me, I'm like, he's a good player, and there's a lot to unlock there. There's not going to be a lot of value coming out of him because a lot of the management will know that once you've got the cold shoulder by Arteta, it's usually a done deal for you. You're not really going to get back into this squad that often. And I think that much was obvious for Emile. And I'm sure that you, although you don't necessarily partake in as much social media as probably I do, my screen time is far beyond any hours that I care to admit. There was footage of him in Jamaica with Leon Bailey. I think Leon Bailey was wearing an Emile Smith Rowe shirt while they were partying in Jamaica. And it's like, there's a lot of, I don't know if you saw romance between Kai Havertz and Odegaard. They went on holiday with their partners, and it looked like they were on a yacht playing chess, and they're at this hotel where no one else was. It was very calm, very, very adult, very the kind of holidays that you'd expect consummate professionals to have. And it was very polar opposite to what you're seeing Emile Smith Rowe. Like, get in the gym, get into training, get into working, getting back into this team. If it means that much to you, yes, you deserve a break. Yes, you deserve some time off. But do it to recharge, to re-energize yourself, to bring yourself back to where you need to be. And if you're going to do it, don't do it with a mate of yours wearing a shirt with your name on the back just so people recognize who you are. It feels a bit pony to me. And so for me, he just stood out as like, I want him to succeed because I like him as a player, and like I say, to hail ender, and I want him to be Arsenal, but I just don't feel it's there anymore. And I feel that we've been guilty in the past very often as Arsenal, particularly Wenger, of holding on to players for far too long beyond when they're valuable to us. And then by the time we do decide to sell them, they're worth nothing. Or they go on to Bosman and we've lost out. And we've done that too many times. And we've got to get better at capitalizing on the value of these players. You look back last summer, there was talk of Emile Smith Rowe being valued at 50 million. Chelsea were apparently talking about him. But if it's not Chelsea, like we could have cashed in last year for a good amount, considering the amount of appearances and minutes that he's had this year and the amount of output he's had. We should have taken it. And now we're not even going to get half of that. So yeah, a bit disappointed. Like Martinelli, for example. Martinelli, I think, is in a dip. He'll come back. I know I've had an argument with one of our friends before about him and I think it was Diaz.
Yeah.
Who was the better player? And their numbers are actually quite similar, to be honest. But obviously this year is far below where he was last year for Gabby Martinelli. I feel he will get back. It's just a confidence thing. It's the same thing for Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, I'm going to move on to the last one then, which is going to be the end of the podcast. We're going to end on player of the season. Now we did talk a little bit about this before, and I think our choices are very complementary to each other, which is quite incredible. And like it's quite funny to talk about these two players, because if you look at what is when you're growing up, when I talk to my kids, not that they're that into football, but if you want to, what do you want to play as in football when you're growing up? Everyone talks about being a striker. Everyone wants to be the scorer in the goals, wants to be the Hollywood player, wants the name in lights. And the two players that we're choosing are not strikers. They're not even midfielders. Jace, who is your player of the season for Arsenal this year?
William Saliba. I just love that man. Like, the defense this season has been outstanding. He has been outstanding. Yeah, injury-prone season last year. He was the reason we lost the league last year. I don't. Partey was a problem for not winning the league this season before last, but but William Saliba left a big hole. This year, we had the most clean sheets in the league. I think it was 29 clean sheets. Just ridiculous numbers. Then 38 games played. Every single minute of every Premier League game, he was there. He was a constant. 63% tackle rate, one of the highest in the league. Just his stats are just phenomenal. I cannot. His class, his way he can pass the ball out, his confidence, his recoveries, just everything about him. He is my centre back. He's the best centre back in the world for me. I just don't think there's anyone better than him. I've got rose tinted glasses and the Arsenal fan, I know. But, I heard Rio Ferdinand say he's the best Premier League centre-back as well. So, and I think the Premier League is the hardest league in the world. So, for me, he's the best centre-back in the world. And it's just an amazing season. I just got nothing but plaudits for that man. So much that he's on the back of this shirt I'm wearing right now.
Yeah. I mean, let me compliment it then, because I'm going to choose Gabriel. And only because I feel like Saliba is the one that everyone talks about. He is the one that gets all the flowers, that gets all the commentary. And Gabriel feels like an unsung hero of this Arsenal defence. He feels like that centre-back partnership is the best in the league. And you're right. You talk about all the stats. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are. There's a lot of how at the start of the season, our football was a bit pedestrian, a bit more boring. We focused solely on solidity and total control, and a lot of that was bred from the fact that we just weren't like letting teams concede against us, but we weren't scoring that many either. And he's just an absolute monster, winning headers, dragging the ball forward. Just the combinations between him and Saliba and the communication, that partnership, it's going to hopefully go down in history of Arsenal partnerships that we've had, and something that that there's still a lot of years to come from both of them as well, which I think is even more important. You could get another at least 5 years out of this partnership easily. And it could go down as one of the best in the Premier League if we can get something over the line. So for me, Gabriel, it was a hard one because I talked about Kai Havertz earlier. We've talked about Declan Rice. I think we've had an embarrassment of riches this year in terms of good players. And to pick two defenders, like I say, is quite incredible in my opinion, because it's usually not the stylistic, the standout performers, but they really have come into their own this year.
Yeah, they have, and for me, Saliba's the Rolls Royce, and Gabriel's the I don't have an analogy for him apart from being a vicious beast of a player.
Charger,
he's aggressive. He's aggressive, and he's one of the don't get me wrong. I could have easily given it to Gabriel. I think. And we haven't talked about Declan, and we probably should, and Odegaard. Those two need to be spoken about as well. Good words need to be spoken about those two players. But together, they are formidable. And Gabriel has just got that gnarliness. I think just people don't want to play against him. He's just an absolute pain. And Saliba's just so gifted and elegant, smooth, and like you can't get around that man. They
complement each other so well, right? They're kind of like yin and yang. They're like really well adjusted to each other. You make such a good Gabriel feels like a bit more of a. Arsenal have always been talked about is that we don't have those type of players, the ones that you just really hate playing against, and he's just a nuisance, and he's just he's in your ear and he's doing all of that. That's it.
Yeah, I mean we've had good centre backs, maybe not. I mean, Koscielny and Mertesacker were a good duo, but they weren't at the level. Before that, you probably have to go back to Sol Campbell and Toure in the Invincible season, who are tough and hard to play against. Very tough. We went unbeaten with them, so it wasn't. They were a very powerful set of centre backs. Before Vidic and Ferdinand came along, they were the most powerful centre backs I'd say in the league, but I wouldn't say they were really, really nasty. You have to go back to Tony Adams back in late 80s, 90s. Not his end of career Arsenal, but definitely that late 80s, early 90s Tony Adams when he would just kick the hell out of you. that's the last. We haven't had. He and Gabriel have had that kind of. Tony Adams is a little bit more innocent, but he still beat you. Whereas Gabriel, you can literally see it in him. He's not willing to kick. He's not.
They both just love defending as well, right? That's like they both just love it.
Oh yeah. Well, you remember the celebration this season for defending and stopping that chance. Gabriel's response. He celebrated like a goal. Yeah.
Right, we're an hour and 5. It's been an incredible season, an incredible podcast. I've enjoyed the journey and the ride. We're going to be back for more, obviously, next season. We're going to be talking through the summer as well. So if you plan on joining us, please do give these videos a like, give it a subscribe. We're going to be talking about transfers. We'll probably be talking about other topics like the ballot, like we said earlier. So please do join us again as we continue to talk about Arsenal through the summer and maybe some Euros sprinkled in, Jace, depending on how England fare.
I think we need an Arsenal update at the Euros.
Arsenal watch. Yeah.
Arsenal watch.
Yeah. But yeah, look, if you're coming back to us, please do subscribe. You'll get a notification as soon as our next video goes live. And if you're listening to a podcast, please do give it a 5-star review. Until next time, then we will see you on the other side. Thanks, Jace, and thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Cheers, guys. Thanks all.